What's going on, people? Georgio Savvides here, founder of the Hip Hop Orchestra, as well as the host of the Hip Hop Orchestra Presents podcast. And I got a really exciting announcement to finally make with everyone, is that we have our very first official sponsor for the podcast. Now, they are an amazing company called Eldon's Vault, who are extremely dedicated in bringing you the very best in officially licensed merchandise from pop culture. And when I mean the very best, I mean the very best. They provide things like keyrings, caps, t-shirts, to Funko Pops, to statues from all over, such as DC, Marvel, Disney, The Mandalorian, Harry Potter, music artists from all over the place, and they are ridiculously good. I've got a couple of things to show you on offer at the moment. This trust me, their stuff is amazing. So, t-shirts, like I mentioned, like the one I'm wearing right now. It's got Rocky right here, which I absolutely love. Or, like I said, also got Funko Pops as well, 3.75 inches and 10 inches. I've got a couple of 10 inches right here for you. I've got Post Malone right here, and I've also got Biggie right here, who I absolutely love. These are so sick. Eldon's Vault, trust me, they are amazing. Now, I'm going to leave the link below in the video right here, and also in the description below as well in all future videos from the podcast. But trust me, Eldon's Vault are amazing. Website is www.eldonsvault.co.uk. Get in touch with them now and start buying ASAP. But also, before I forget as well, I just want to say the biggest thank you to Eldon's Vault for sponsoring the podcast. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you. And trust me, get in touch with them right now. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And peace. What's going on, people? Welcome to another brand new episode of Hip Hop Orchestra. We're joined by an amazing, wicked guest today, co-founder of music management consultancy JVL, law graduate, and pioneer of creating safe spaces for women in music, Vanessa Threadgold. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very well, Georgio. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. We're saying that you just had a meeting just now, didn't you, on the podcast just now? How was it?
It was good. It was really good. A bit emotional, but
Was it?
sometimes they get that way. So yeah. Sometimes they get that way. They're not always bubbly and lively. So
It's true. How long? How, how long did it go for?
probably about 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe an hour.
fair
But then
enough.
again, I talked for a long time, so it could have been any length of time.
So could I, you know
Easily.
what, talk as much as you want. I don't mind. It's all good with me. Don't worry. But how's lockdown been for you? Been okay? Been busy? Been coping okay?
Um, you know what? Believe it or not, I'm actually quite an introvert, so it's not really bothered me that much.
Yeah.
I've kind of liked it actually. Like I've really got into the swing of things. Like first lockdown, got really healthy, got into a really good routine with eating well, exercising, um, you know, more, and just took a bit of a breather really. Like I got my head in the right headspace, I guess, to attack the rest of the year. And this second one, I haven't really noticed it because I mean, when we came out of the last lockdown, I think I went out maybe like 3, 4 times. I think
Hmm.
there's been one moment this lockdown where I've gone, it would be nice to go celebrate some wins and go out for
Hmm.
a meal. Other than that, I've
Yeah.
not really noticed that much. So I've actually been okay. What about you? Have you
You
been
know what?
coping?
I've been fine. I'm exactly the same as you. Like, believe it or not, I know we just met now, but I'm an introvert as well. So having an excuse to stay home and not go out anywhere was fine by me. But
That's fair.
yeah, you know what? But although I'm a teacher as well, so obviously I'm still working.
Okay.
Yeah, so that my obviously work day was absolutely manic. So it was kind of didn't change for me, but just not
Mhm.
going out and working from home as well at the same time was completely fine by me. So I kept fine really. But you know what? It's true what you said about the second lockdown. Now you didn't really notice it, did we? Really?
I didn't really notice the change really that much because I was just so used to from the first one. I'd gone into a little routine anyway, and it was a good routine. It was a healthy routine. You know, I can still work. Songs still get put out. A lot of stuff goes online. There's been
Mhm.
some little delays with things where companies have been completely closed, But other than that, it's just been steady away. Like, obviously, it'd be nice to go to some shows. Don't get me wrong. I was really looking forward to going to Afro Nation this year and
Oh, that would be
Rolling
amazing.
Loud. So, those are the things that have been put off, and I'm just hoping that next year these tickets are still gonna be worthwhile having. So I've kept on trying. So I'm just hoping that next year it's all gonna be in a safer space that we can actually go out and have some music festivals and some live music and things, and hopefully get a couple of my artists on the set list, to be honest, because it'd be nice to get some perks that are out there.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Have you been able to do, say, more work during this period as well, during these lots of kind of lockdown periods?
I think I've focused very much on one of my projects. So Cactus City, as you mentioned, create safe spaces for women in music. So I've been able to focus really heavily on that, built up a bit of a team, and really, really, really focused on that. So I'm actually doing a lot of work with fundraising, getting investors on board, just lots of due diligence, lots of research, a lot of boring stuff, but it's interesting to me. It might be interesting to other people. It's spend a lot of time talking to accountants and lawyers now, versus actually, I'd like to be spending a bit more time with my artists, to be honest, but I've got a lot of deadlines with the project that I'm doing with the studio. But it's really made me get my head down and actually focus on it, I think, because I've not really had any other options. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm bored, I've got nothing to do. I haven't had a moment where I've been bored with nothing to do. I've literally just worked constantly. If anything, I've maybe worked more now than I've ever worked. I think I was up till 2 o'clock last night working. The night before, I was up till midnight working. Like, I can't remember a night where I've not been working until ridiculous o'clock at night, and then up in the morning as well, early, working again. And it's just been non-stop. So yeah, I have managed. Maybe I've been working a little bit too much in the last couple of weeks, but generally I've got quite a good balance. But I have been working a lot.
Oh, you deserve, with what you're doing now, you fully deserve all the success you deserve, because you work so hard, like you said. Have you always worked from home though, or did you need to go, say, to an office before and do all your bits there?
So I used to have I used to have a corporate job, I guess, for 5 years. So I used to be in the office, and then before I left my corporate this year, I was working from home for a bit. I mean, we did have working from home. We had flexible working and things like that, which lots of companies do nowadays. But I wasn't working from home 5 days a week, so that wasn't something that I was doing. Now, obviously with music, it's nice to go to the studio. Studios are still open, actually, during this second lockdown. It is nice to go to the studio. Obviously, I really miss live shows. But I've decided that I'm a person that the only time I'm going to leave my house now is if I'm going to the studio, if I'm going to catch a flight because I'm going to a festival or I'm going on holiday, and to walk my dog. Like, I actually really enjoy being at home. Like, I'm lucky enough to have a really lovely home, and I don't usually have a reason to go anywhere because I can just do most things from here. So it does suit my introvert lifestyle. There's one thing I really miss though. And that's the spa. So I've got a spa membership at an incredible spa called Agua. It's at a hotel called the Sea Containers, which used to be the Mondrian. And it is like my little sanctuary in the city. So I really miss that because it's been closed since March. And I went there it might have been closed since February. So they closed before the initial lockdown. It's been closed since February. Because I remember just before the lockdown was announced, I just got back from New York. So I've been over in New York visiting our partners with JVO. So we partner with EQ, who are Rock Nation's independent distribution company. So I've been visiting New York. I got back. I went to that hotel for 3 days, but the spa had already shut because they were trying to, put measures in place. So I wasn't able to visit before the lockdown came into effect. So I've been really, really, really missing my spa nights and days, and just being able to just sit in the steam room or in the lounge and just be able to just have a bit of a breathe. I miss that. That's one thing that I do. It's not exactly the most extroverted activity, But I think
Oh,
that's one thing.
I can imagine. 'Cause like I said, I'm exactly like I'm exactly the same as you, being that introvert where I just love staying at home. I just
Mm.
I don't like going. I know it sounds bad, but I just don't like going out. And
Mm.
growing up, where all my friends like going to like pubs and bars and clubs, I felt so uncomfortable going there. I know it sounds weird, but I just felt so uncomfortable and out of place. It's like I did not enjoy it one bit.
I completely get you. Like, don't get me wrong, I do love a, like I say, I love a festival, but I need to recharge. Like even
Hmm.
when people come over, like if there's too many people over, it just takes me a little while to recharge from all that
Hmm.
energy that I expended in like being so social. And it's strange because I'm a very sociable person, so it's strange, I guess, being an introvert who seems like a really well. They can still be outgoing, but I think it often confuses people. They don't quite understand the nature of the outgoing introvert, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find it being an introvert? How did you find it creating so many amazing things? I mean, did you find it difficult at first, even now, to do what you do, or have you kind of learned how to use your introvert ability to overcome certain things in different ways?
So I think for me, I suffered a lot in the past with imposter syndrome, um, because of it, I think. And I've also in the past felt very uncomfortable reaching out to people and speaking to people. However, I know that to be the person that I want to be and who I see myself as, being an entrepreneur, work in the music industry, you have to be able to speak to people. So I've sort of developed, I guess, my own little book of skills that I go to in these circumstances. Um, I always offer value when I'm going to speak to people. So I don't just go looking for someone else's value. So that gives you like a good exchange. I think that's a really balanced way of approaching people. Um, and I try to surround myself with people who are positive and help me with my confidence,
Mhm.
because then we can all help each other with our confidence, and then the confidence just continues to grow. And I also know that it's just a skill that I have to have. Like I have to be able to go out there and speak to people. So if I want to do this, you have to work on your weaknesses.
Mhm.
Same with artists. Like there might be things that they're not so good at. They may be not so good at social media, but it doesn't mean they can't do it at all. They might not be good at um, being in the live space, but you just can't not do it, because that's part of parcel of the job that you want to do, the career you want to have. You can't say, you know what, I want to be a tech entrepreneur, however I'm going to go live in a desert remote island with no electricity, because how are you going to do that? You're just setting yourself up for a fall. So you have to sort of develop your own ways of dealing with those things. So now I can just sort of navigate it comfortably, but know that sometimes I just need to take some time for myself and some space away from myself. And I am good at I'm good at communication. I think
Mhm.
that's one key thing. Just let people know that actually I need a bit of a break. It's nothing to do with you. I just need some space and it's a break for myself. So I'm just going to take that time and recharge, and I'll be back with you and give a time date and pretty much try to stick to that, and don't put too much pressure on yourself to come back to things too early. So those are the sort of
Definitely.
things that I do to find the balance that I need.
Definitely. And have you worked with anyone that's given you really good advice on your journey so far that's helped you?
I mean, I think my business partner, Oracle, he is amazing. I don't know if he knows that he's so helpful to me, but he always has been, like ever since I first met him. I think we give a lot to each other in terms of our working relationship. I think someone who has inspired me along my journey has been someone called Austin DeBow, who is
I
the
know Austin.
EVP
Yeah.
at Atlantic. He, uh, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, because he did say that anything that he did say, he says to people that he knows that might get repeated at some point. So he, told me that he used to sort of suffer with imposter syndrome until he got promoted, and then realized that actually everyone was kind of just finding their own way as well. Not that people weren't skilled, they were very highly skilled, but everyone feels like they're winging it in some way. And then, I mean, if you look at like even our, you know, government sometimes, I think they sometimes just look like they're winging it as well. Like, so everyone's human. you kind of have to go, actually, we're all just trying our best, or at least I hope we're trying our best. And that's something my dad used to say to me every day was, try your best, that's all you can do. And that's right. All you can do is try your best. And if you know you've tried your best, at least you've tried. If you failed, at least you tried. You can try again. It's not, these things aren't the end of the world. So those two people have inspired me. And I think pretty much like they're the top two on my list. Oh, and also actually I need to give him a shout out because I don't want to forget this one because it's actually one of the most important ones. So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, Zeno Jones, he's an amazing guy. He manages Big Sean. He really told me to be myself. So I was trying to sort of be more of a, I guess, typical exec. And it's not really the person who I am. Like, I'm really just not that person. Like, I'm occasionally wear pigtails and, I love, not that pink should be an issue. It's not at all, but some people it is. And I am quite, like I say, bubbly. And he was just really, certain that I should be myself. Don't try to, fit into some other box because it's just not going to work and you're just not going to be able to move forward. And if people like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. And since I had that advice, I think I've gone from strength to strength in my career, and I'm really moving into a space that I'm really happy being in at the minute with my career. And I've really shaped it for myself. So obviously everything I do for myself. Like my studio, my artist management company, we work for ourselves, so I get to dictate the rules. And I've always said, way back when I first started managing artists in 2015, I've always said I don't want to see anyone in the office before 10 a.m. And if you are here before 10 a.m., you at least just be getting breakfast or a coffee. I don't want to see you like working too hard. I don't want to see you here past this stupid time at night unless you really need to be here. Like, I want people to have like a work-life balance. I want it to be fun. I want you to want to be there. I want you to be productive in the hours that you are there. Like, I don't want to create an environment where I would be unhappy being if I just started. So, I'm lucky that I get to maybe do that with my company next year, once we start taking staff on and things like that. But I think being myself has really, really helped.
I couldn't agree more with that advice, actually, because since I decided to be myself with things, instead of trying to please everyone, like you said, I went from strength to strength, and I've never been happier. I mean, being yourself is the thing you can. Being you is unique. Be you, and I realize it kind of gives you less stress, doesn't it? Just being yourself, you realize that you're bringing the right sort of people towards you, don't you? And if, like you say, if they like you, they like you. If they don't, who cares? Just move on.
Exactly. Like, we're at the end of the day, like, I always think, even when we're taking on artists, we might not be the right people for everyone. We can't now change entirely to be the right people for someone. We can only be the right managers for the right fit. And that's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. And it's actually a good thing to come to that realization early on if something's not a good fit, rather than try and change, because at some point when you change too much, you might actually break. Definitely adapt. Definitely think that you need to make adjustments as well, because everyone has different needs. Like, that's really important. Treat people as individuals, but you can't treat people as individuals to a point of you're changing yourself, and it's just because it just won't work. It just won't work.
Definitely. But I wanted to get into actually Cactus City Studios, actually, which I found really inspirational. And I saw that you found on Pinterest, actually, that no one else was doing it, which spurred you on to do this.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So it was a few years ago. I was managing only female artists at this point, and just having some issues, and we're going to studios, and I thought, you know what, let's make our own studio so we don't have to deal with this. Like, we don't have to deal with the someone's asking you to go on a date, it's just when it's really inappropriate, or just even just making comments on your music that you just don't want to deal with. And it's nice to have your own control over the space, and what it is you're trying to do with your own music. So I thought, right, let's build our own. And I was looking for inspiration to design my own, So I was searching, feminine music studio, pink music studio, girly music studio. Literally nothing was coming up. And then everything was just, they look like spaceships, or they've got like a black leather couch in there, which we always look at and think, oh, it's akin to a casting couch type thing, or it's just really cold. The environment's not really been thought of. Like sometimes you gotta think, like at the end of the day, these places are for producers to go in there, do their work. They just need to be acoustically treated really well. It's not really always about the vibe, but some, a lot of people just think we'll just stick some LED lights on and that'll create a vibe with the color scheme. Doesn't always work that way. Like sometimes you just need warm lighting. It needs to be just a nice environment. So that's when I said, you know what, this actually doesn't exist. So I got a Pinterest, I got into Google, and it really does not exist. There are studios. There's amazing studios. There's one in San Francisco that's like run by women, owned by women, a really, really amazing facility. But it's not like a space built for women specifically. It's just a space that's been built. And I just was quite shocked that there was no pictures. Not that the facility as a corporation or as a big business didn't exist as a commercial venture, just that there was no pictures for inspiration at all. Really shocked me. That genuinely really shocked me, because I thought there'd at least be one, and there was nothing. So I thought, well, this kind of needs to exist. And it was one of those things that when I was making it, one of my producers was like, I don't understand why we're paying it like this, I want to decorate it like this. But he didn't care. He was just going along with it. He's someone I worked with for ages. Like, he just was going along with what I was doing. And then he said to me, after he'd had quite a few sessions in there with female songwriters and things, he said, I understand why there's a need for this now. Because he said, people come in here and they realize the space has been designed for them and they've been thought of, and they're able to relax straight away and actually be able to just get down to working without having to figure him out, what his intentions are, etc. And he'd never realized that people were even doing that. But obviously, because women have such bad experiences in the industry, they often go into the studio with that reservation or thought of something might happen here, so I've got to figure you out. And he just realized that people just getting straight down to work, and they were just able to create such incredible music. And we've made some unbelievable music, some that's coming out soon actually from that first studio. And I'm really excited for it to come out.
Oh, that is so good. That is so exciting to hear as well, though. But being the first person to actually do this, like an all-female studio, how did that make you feel? Did you feel kind of excited to do it, or angry that it hadn't been done before, upset, or like a mixture of different emotions? I mean, how did you feel being the first one to do this?
I wasn't upset or angry. I was a bit disappointed, if anything. But also, it was exciting, because actually this has not been done before. Like, let's plaster the door with roses, and that's what we did. We just covered the door from top to bottom with roses, and it just went. I almost went too far with it the first time round, and then I had to like pull back and completely redecorate because it was just ridiculous the first time round. I just went all a bit too much. Like I don't want it to be cliche. Like, it's not to be cliche. Like it ended up being more of a peachy color, because I really like Hollywood glamour. So there was like lots of like silk, and I'd love to have stuck a chandelier in there and things like that, and like lots of gold. Like that's the kind of like look that I wanted it to have, which the next studio will have. Like I want the booth to have like an arch instead of like just a typical square window and things like that. So a lot of thought is going into the next one. I'm not just going to rush into it and just splash pink everywhere. Like, I'm definitely not doing that with the next one. So no, it was kind of exciting. It was fun. And then when I finished the second design of the first one, people would come in and be like, "Oh, you should design studios. Like, you should actually do this like for a living. You should, because it's actually nice on top of being what it is." But it felt like a living room. Like, it really did feel like you were going in somewhere, and it felt like a living room. And I've had lots of male artists come through there, and they loved it. I've had some of the hardest rappers in the UK come through there, and they're like, "This is my favorite studio." They still message me to say that they miss it, because it's a really nice environment. And it's not just women who suffer with the patriarchy and issues to do with sexism. Men suffer with it too, like, and they're forced to sort of be masculine version of themselves, and they might not always want to. They sometimes might want to be more vulnerable, and it's not even the space that needs to be a certain way to allow you to do that, but just being given the safety of that makes it easier to open up, I think. So we did find it really, really, yeah, exciting, and like I say, some great music came out there. And then we closed the initial studio because we were going to move just before the first lockdown happened, and then unfortunately the building we're moving into got sold. So I decided, okay, you know what, actually let's think about this. What do I really need to make the safe space that I want? And I thought, I'm not going to go into another multi-complex, because in a complex with lots of other studios, so you don't have that much control, and you can't say for definite who's going to be there or what the situation is going to be like with people from other places. So I thought, actually we need someone who's got control of the whole building. I initially spotted a building when I first started my GoFundMe, but that space we actually can't have because the landlord is they basically said that they can only have it as a dental laboratory. They won't have it as anything else, despite the fact that the business use is actually okay for a studio. But they said it was really hard to get the business use full stop, so they don't want to push the boat too far. And recording studios obviously sounds like really loud space. So despite the fact it's completely detached from everything, they're not up for it. But we did find another building, which is amazing, 3-story building with outside space that's private, and it's 1,000 square foot. It's right next to an amazing station that really just connects all the way from Brighton all the way up to Bedfordshire, literally directly from the station. So it's in a really, really good position that actually lots of people will be able to access it. You can get direct access to St Pancras, so you could come from Europe if you wanted to use the space very easily. You could be there within 20 minutes. So it's in a really good position. So we're just kind of going through negotiations to see if we can get that space now. And we're at the point of early stages of seed funding at the minute. So we've gone through what's called a family and friends round with our fundraising, and now we're going into first stages of seed funding to give some people some tax relief, with the investment. And then hopefully we'll be able to get our bigger investment and move things forward.
Fingers crossed. I mean, how long do you have until you have to make an official bid for this venue? Do you have obviously, because obviously this year's messed everything up really, but do you have until for instance early next year to make an official bid for this venue, or how does it work?
Well, that's the thing. It's one of those things, it's only recently come onto the market, the place we're looking at, and obviously not much is happening right now in terms of people going for commercial space, just because of the time and what's happened. So I mean, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, to be honest. I'm just gonna pop my offer across, but it is conditional on whether or not we can get the right soundproofing in. So we've got a construction company that's going to have a look at it, let us know whether we can put a formal offer forward to the landlady. She loves the idea. She's really really keen on the idea. It's a great idea. She's really happy for us to go in, completely renovate the space, but we just need to check that we can do the right kind of soundproofing in there that's going to actually be a world-class studio. So that's what we want to make this time around. We're not just going to go and do something small. We're actually going to make something that's where Adele could come and she could lay down a whole new album if she wanted to. That's the kind of space that we want. We want to make it like a world-class recording facility, but we need to make sure we've got the acoustics right, and that really is the most important thing, is getting the music right first. Then I can set the mood after that. I've pictured it all already. I know exactly what it's going to look like. It's just whether or not we can get it sounding right. And Air Studios, they've got a studio in a church. They've managed to
love Air Studios.
make things work. Yeah, they've managed to make things work. So potentially, even if it's not quite perfect, we can get a good vibe. Because sometimes things don't need to be perfect as long as they're ideal. So it's just one of those things at the minute. We're just waiting to see whether it's going to be the right space. If it is, then it's all systems go. got some deadlines in terms of government funding schemes. So there's a scheme called SITR, which is like a tax relief scheme for social enterprise and charities. So we are set up as what's called a CIC, which is something a lot of people don't know about. It's a community interest company. So we're able to get funding, but it's a different kind of funding to like a typical startup. But it still gives people tax relief if they do invest or give us a loan. So that's what we're doing in the minute. We're going through those funding rounds, but yeah, there's no specific time limit. But I don't want to wait too long. Obviously, I want to get that bit in there and see what she thinks, because we can't just. It's not one of those things that you can just have it for a year. You have to actually have this quite long term. Like we're thinking it's going to be at least 20 years, which is
wow.
When you think about it like that, it sounds quite scary, like it's quite a big venture. But then when you factor in the build cost, because you've got to think, we're getting people in who are currently building a cinema, so the build cost is not cheap, but we want it to be an incredible space. So when we divide that by 20, it's still pretty high. So we've got to be able to make that money back each year and start turning a profit at some point. So it's not something we're pushing along too quickly, because it's not something you can rush. You need to make the decisions that are smart, but it's progressing quickly, if that makes sense. Like every day stuff is happening. So.
Of course, you must have learned so much as you're doing this whole thing. I mean, 20 years as well, the CICs and so forth. You must be like a big shock to the system then when you're doing this.
So I've learned so much, and I've written such a thorough business plan, and it felt like I was back at law, at university doing law, doing my dissertation. That's what it felt like I was doing, and I'm still not finished. Like every day something new happens. And had some advice from an entrepreneur the other day that said, look, if you ever feel like there's not a problem at your business and there's nothing for you to deal with, then you're done. You need to get a CEO, because you are done now, because you haven't got anything else to do. But every day there's just something new, and that's why I've been up like every night, I guess, until ridiculous o'clock. But then you kind of have to try to make it look easy to the rest of the world, but it's not. It's really not easy. Way. But that's what my marketing girl's for. So when I say marketing girl, like she's amazing. Like my head of marketing, Sally, she's my new business partner. She is unbelievable. She's been working in marketing and PR for years, in like fashion and music, but also in sort of more corporate spaces as well. And she got so many ideas, and she's been such a big help, and she's been working really, really, really hard as well. So I'm gonna rely on her to make everything look like it's running smoothly from the outside, while I might be flapping and running around like a headless chicken on the inside.
Do you feel like your time at law school really helped you to get to where you are now, in terms of learning about the paperwork and so forth, as well as involved?
I think so. Like for me, university was one of those things that I went to university not because I desperately wanted to, but I kind of went just to put my mum's mind at ease a little bit, that I wasn't just dancing all over the world and trying to do that forever. So I think it did help, because university was a shock to my system. Like I went from, like I didn't have A levels. I actually had a diploma in dance, and that's what got me into law school. I didn't go with A levels, so I wasn't prepped with A levels, and I hadn't been in education for 5 years. I was literally at my cutoff point when I went back to education. So because I was on that last year, I'd been out of the game for so long, and I did my degree in 2 years instead of 3 years, so fast tracked. So it was an absolute shock. So I think it has helped. I think it helps you read the law. Like that is what a law degree does. Like you can't teach you the law or teach you how to think. I was already a very critical and analytical thinker anyway. I was always an outside the box thinker regardless. but then it just teaches you to be able to understand certain things and principles. And then if anything, it was more the actual experience in firms that I got when I was doing work experience and things like that, that taught me about how to negotiate and how these things really go, and not what happens on the television. And a lot of it is very dull. I will tell you that it's very dull. But there's so much of it that's really, really fun. Like, I actually enjoy the academic side of law. Didn't enjoy the doing the dissertation side of it. But, and that's, like I say, what it feels like I've done again. But I love doing it. I love doing the business planning side of things. I love doing the research. I love being prepared because I know what the result's going to be. So I know with this preparation, people look at it and go, okay, this is something that we're going to take seriously. And I think this is what a lot of people miss out on when it comes to you know, getting investment and things. They don't realize just how much work they actually have to put in, so people will take your idea seriously. So even if you put all this work in and you do all your due diligence and you get your lawyer, you get your accountant, you get everything, you know, dot all your I's, cross all your T's, it still might fail. So the reality is you have to do all that just to show you're at least going to put your utmost into it. Because if you don't do that, why would someone give you their money at the end of their day? Like, you have to show that you are going to work hard for it. So I think a lot of it is that. I think hopefully if I do this again next time round, it won't feel as difficult because I have learned so much. But yeah, no, it's been a great period of learning for me. And it's actually been really good again for my confidence, because it's just nice to get new information and be able to use it, and also be able to help other people with it. So I've come across like lots of other small businesses while I've been doing things who are trying to figure out the same things I'm trying to figure out. So I'm able to then, you know, call them up and say, oh, I've just figured this out. Here's the information that you need. And they're able to offer me information. So I've been developing my business relationships with other people as well, but also it's been beneficial all around. So it's that part's really nice as well.
Amazing. And for the future, would you look at maybe expanding the studios into maybe having several different ones at one go?
We're already planning on doing that actually, but we want to
Amazing.
get the first one off the ground first.
Okay.
But we do have a few other areas that we do want to go to. So a couple in different countries, completely different continents. Maybe another one in London. We'd like to do one in the north of England next, I think. The first thing we'd do is get one in the north of England if we're able to. So maybe Manchester or Sheffield, which is where I first ever went to the studio in Steelworks. Incredible studio up there. And yeah, I think that's the first step, and then maybe a second one in London if we can. And then, as I say, there's a couple of countries that we're eyeing up already, but that is way into the future. 3 to 5 year plan at least before we start doing that. As I say, we've already got 20 years. I thought of doing this one for 20 years, so we'll see what happens.
Is there anything you kind of touched us already, but is there anything you would have wished you would have known before you went into doing this?
I would have liked to have known that there was a sunset clause on the SITR funding, because I would have absolutely set the company up earlier. So there's a funding that I'm going for, and you have to be trading for 4 months before you're able to apply. And that gives us a very tight window in April, because the government the government said earlier in the year that they were going to announce what they were going to do with this funding model, but they haven't actually done anything about it yet.
Okay.
So they've not actually announced anything yet, so we don't know if this funding, we might not have a deadline. They might actually extend the scheme, so they might actually extend it for years. But at the minute, we've got this tight deadline, so I'd like to have known that was there. Anything else I'd like to have known? I don't know. I think what happened was it started off really small, because I was just going to do another small studio where I thought, you know what, I'll just find somewhere with rent that's like 15 grand a year. We'll turn it into a little charity. And then all of a sudden, some people reached out to me. Amazing guy called Jet. He reached out, and he has been really helpful a guy called Jet Glozier from Sound Diplomacy. He's been really, really, really helpful in terms of just giving advice and things like that. And with him and then with my business partner on board, it just became something huge overnight. And I was like, okay, I'd have liked to have known that in advance, just so I could have been prepared in life, not because of anything else, but just because I just really wasn't aware that I was about to dedicate basically 24 hours of my life to this for the next 6 months. But it's just what's happened. It's how it's gone now, and I'm happy with it. So I would have liked to have known that maybe, but other than that, no. I think I've been all right, actually.
Oh, brilliant.
I think all the things that are up and down and all the good things obviously come up, get surprised. Definitely get surprised all the time with things. But that's part of being an entrepreneur. You just have to deal with problems as they come. As I say, if there's no problems, you're not spotting problems, then you're done. You need to go do something new. But it is part and parcel of it. It's pretty much your everyday is dealing with new problems and new things that come up.
Do you feel like you've coped better with those problems as you've gone along as well?
I think I'm definitely rolling with the punches more. Yeah, absolutely. At first, I was probably struggling to sleep a lot more, feeling like I didn't have the time to just go relax, even just by doing something small, like taking a bath or having a face mask or popping out with a friend to grab coffee or whatnot. Whereas now, I actually realize when I'm doing those things, like actually taking some time for myself, that I need that time, and it makes me more productive when I do come back to it. So I think that I have adapted and learned how to deal with things better. And I just don't stress about things because there's always a solution. And if there's not a solution, then you just try something new. I don't really worry about things until they come up, and when something happens, I'm usually very good at dealing with things that have happened. It's a really strange analogy, but when I was in Thailand in 2012, a girl fell over in front of me. She had a glass in her hand, and she slipped on a tile floor, and the glass cut through her wrist, all the way through her wrist, and she started bleeding out. Like, there's blood everywhere. And we called an ambulance, but they didn't know where we were. So I'd picked her arm up, put my hand on it, stopped the bleeding, and had to make a split decision. Do I drive to somewhere where they may be able to help her? Or do we wait for an ambulance where we can't give directions to, we can't speak the language? What do you do? And, I had one person shouting at me to drive because I had a car, another person shouting at me to stay and wait. And I just had to make a decision, and ended up driving to a clinic where people, unfortunately in Thailand, like, people live where they work sometimes because they don't have as much money as I suppose we do here, where they have permanent homes. So we knocked the people up who were in there sleeping on the floor. They just got her in there, patched her up, and drove her to a hospital. But we wouldn't have been able to get to a hospital because, one, we didn't have any petrol. There was no petrol stations, just bottles on the side of the road sometimes being sold. It was the middle of the night, but they got to a hospital and she got patched up. And when I got back to the house, the person who'd waited at the house said, "It's a good job you went because the ambulance never came."
What?
And
Damn.
when I looked back at that situation, everyone else was really panicking. Like, everyone was drunk, everyone was panicking, they were running around screaming, and no one was able to help this person who just essentially slit their wrist. And I did that, and everyone was like, "Oh, have you got medical training?" I'm like, "No, I've actually never trained medically at all. I just did what I had to do to make sure she didn't die. And we were going to be getting asked very awkward questions in a foreign country. I'm trying to go home. I'm not trying to be walked up over something that's got nothing to do with me. I don't even know this girl's name. I still don't know." But it was one of those things that I've never thought that was going to happen ever in my life. But I couldn't have worried about that. Oh, imagine if someone falls over and slits their wrist in front of me. I'm not going to sit worrying about it. But because it wouldn't have helped. Do you know what I mean? But the situation still got sorted. So I always look to that and go, well, I managed to deal with that without ever worrying about that. So there's no point worrying about things that haven't happened yet, because you just deal with things like it.
It's so true. Because I remember of a story about 5 years ago at one of my old schools, actually, where parked up in the staff car park, But I realised when I was coming back to go into the street to go and sort something out, there was a massive traffic jam going on. And I realised that a guy who was cycling actually hit a pothole, fell over, and ended up breaking his leg.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like literally. And so I was traffic. They do, because so I was the one to like literally run over, see if the guy was right, keep the guy really calm, obviously, keep him calm. And I said, if he was right, he goes, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine. Obviously, he was in shock, didn't realise until afterwards. But so I was in the middle of the road, directing traffic whilst calling the ambulance, whilst directing the kids and the other teachers. I was like this, I was like octopus, but like this. I was on the phone to ambulance.
Like, you've got to just do it.
I had no time to think about it. So I like talk to the ambulance, talk to the guy, like look him over, like, are you all right? He goes, I'm fine, I'm fine. And the injury, I think my leg. So I checked his leg, broken. So I told them the address to the school, and all the kids are going, oh, Mr. George, what's going on? I go to school. I was like I said, it's all right, kids, don't worry about it, it's fine. So anyway, they came, and literally they came almost immediately. So 5 minutes later they came. But as I was going back into school, the guy's adrenaline ran out.
Oh god!
And that's when his obviously screams were happening.
He's not clicking in.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, this is not the worst time. It's like the worst time now. But yeah, it's just one of those moments where you like, you just follow the punches and do what you have to do in the spur of the moment. It's crazy, isn't it? What happens sometimes you don't expect. Like I said, though, you don't expect it to happen sometimes, do you?
Exactly. So because you've got that in you. There's just no point in worrying. It's almost like a wasted energy, because until something happens, it hasn't happened and it's not going to happen. Once it's happened, you'll just deal with it. And that's an example of, you just dealt with something bad when it happened. So you're going to be able to deal with bad things when they come. So, that's why I just don't really stress too much, because I always just think of that example, and, you have to go to your memories and go, well, how did I handle that bad situation? I handled it well. All right, well, if something bad happens, we'll deal with it when it happens.
You definitely. I mean, have you ever kind of shocked yourself at how you've dealt with something, like in a really good way? Because you being an introvert as well, have you kind of come out your shell for certain situations, like that incident in Thailand, thinking that's not like me to do that?
Definitely.
But
that one it was almost one of those where I remember, because everyone else was drunk. I decided not to drink that day. For some reason, I decided I wasn't drinking that day. I was just taking a day off. I was on holiday. Thought, I'm not going to drink today. I'm just going to take a day off. But everyone else was wasted. And for some reason, I just wasn't. And I remember just sort of, I'd asked someone to hold this girl's wrist in the air whilst I was in my bikini. We were having a pool party. I'd asked someone to hold her wrist whilst I put some clothes on so I could drive to the clinic. And the girl who did it, she grabbed it for a second, but she was like, I can't do it. She just couldn't do it. So I had to cut up some towels. I'd literally just bought that day. I'd bought some new towels. I had to cut them up, rip them up, tie it around her wrist so that the bleeding would stop. Because all the other adults who were in the room, I was the second youngest person in there, they were just flapping and running around drunk and screaming. And I went upstairs, grabbed a shirt, literally just put a shirt on, put a t-shirt on the girl because she was in a swimwear as well. And then everyone's really flapping, and I'm just trying to like get some focus. And I had to, all of a sudden I just went, she's going to die. And the reaction of the room was, no, she's not. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is going on? So I was really shouting at this point. I don't usually shout at people. Like, it's very rare that you get me to be at that point. Like, I don't do that. And it was, I just really had to take, I suppose, control over it. There was a really cool guy that was with us called Moody, Mohammed, but we called him Moody, from Canada, who was like, I know where there's a clinic, we can just go. And he was just shouting at me to drive, another person shouting at me, don't drive. And he was just, you just have to do what is the right thing. But yeah, it's those situations, I think, where you have to come out of your shell. Like, it's it's not even that I'm not able to deal with rooms. Like, I am able to go into situations and be a social butterfly, but it just drains me to do that. And sometimes I just don't want to do that. And sometimes we'll be having a party at home or something, and I just sometimes not want that to be the case. I just didn't know we were having a party today. I live with my business partner, so he, sometimes will spring one on me, like to do with work, and I'm just like, I'm really done with being on my own today. But what I'm going to do is go upstairs. I'm going to put some makeup on. I'm going to put on a dress. And I'm just going to deal with the situation and I handle it. And I take a few days off from people then after that. So yeah, it does happen quite a lot. I think it
does.
It's one of those that you just have to. And to be fair, I've done performing arts my whole life, and that used to terrify me before I went on stage. When I was on stage, I was fine, but before going on stage, I was always so terrified. And I don't know how I ever used to look like I was feeling confident when I was on stage, because I'd be petrified, I'd be shaking. Like there was points where I'd be doing dance performances where I couldn't even stand up straight before I got on stage. And as soon as I was on stage, I was absolutely fine. And more than fine, I did really well, and then I come off and just be like, oh, that went really well, but it felt like it was going to go to hell before I actually got on the stage. So I think maybe that has helped, like being a dancer and being able to draw from my training in dance, to just sort of putting on a face in a way, because it's a lot of that. You just have to put on a face. I try and be a lot more natural now, but it used to be the whole smile, this, that. It wasn't so much give some emotion in your face, or the actual emotion that you're feeling. It was very much forced smiles all around when I was a dancer, because that was what, nearly 20 years ago. So when I first started dancing.
Do you miss that sort of dancing that you did?
I
the performing arts.
do. I really miss dancing, but I dance a lot at home now. So I think that's one of the things that I would have carried on doing. Like I stopped dancing when I was about 24, and I wish I carried on. I do wish I carried on, because I was a qualified teacher at that point, and I was going to do some more training to be an even more qualified teacher. But I just decided to go to do law, just because I wasn't really keen on the politics in schools. So you're a teacher, like what it's like.
Yeah,
like really
I do.
But it wasn't even so much. It wasn't the kids. The kids are great. It was just more like dealing with parents and dealing with head teachers and stuff. I was like, I don't know if this is for me, because I keep getting dragged into the office and being told off, and then it's not even my kid that I'm being told off over. And the kid won't say anything for hours. I'll just be sat there while I'm getting told off in front of the kid, and I'm just like, I don't even know this kid. What to do with me?
That is such a familiar story to me.
I don't know this kid. But the kid is like, oh, I don't do dance, I do music production. I'm like, see? It's not even my kid.
It's not mine.
All the kids in my class, I know all their names. Like, kids are great. It was just the politics. I thought, you know what? I just can't do all these politics. But what I've realized now, since leaving dance and going into the legal and going into the corporate world and going into other industries, is that those politics exist everywhere, and you just have to just deal with them. So now that I'm older, I'm like, maybe I could have just stuck at dance, but I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So I'm happy that I am where I am right now. I do miss dancing, but I can still do the splits on one leg. I'm just about that far off with my other leg. So I'm getting back into it slowly, and I'm really like trying to do a lot more, and I have been doing a lot more since lockdown started. I was dancing nearly every day. So
amazing.
I got a membership to something called Steezy, which is like
Steezy?
it's a dance platform. It's like STEEZE, Steezy.
Okay.
And it's like you've got like classes on there from incredible teachers. So I do that because I don't want to do what I used to do as a kid, which is like watch music videos and YouTube and just copy off that. I need someone to actually go through the steps. Well, I used to have the patience to sit and watch things in slow-mo, like the Britney Spears Slave for You dance routine. You can watch that in slow-mo and actually just learn from that. Now I actually need someone to go through the steps, explain it a little bit. Haven't got the patience. Well, it's not even the patience. I haven't got the time to sit and watch music videos and just copy pop stars anymore. You need to just be giving clear instructions. Just do this, and it's going to work out for you. So.
It's so true. It's like the new thing now with TikTok as well, man. It drives me mad. Everywhere I go now is just I was even going like shopping the other day, and there's a bunch of kids doing TikTok, and I find them thinking, it's so to me, it's so cringy. And I'm only 32 now, but I find it so cringy.
Oh, at the same age. Yeah. You know what? I do and I don't. I think that's one of the places for me. Like, I think on Twitter you could do a lot of doom scrolling. Where you're just scrolling and taking in lots of information, but the information will never end. So you have to kind of stop. Whereas if you scroll through TikTok, it's kind of a happier place, I find. So like I often, if I find myself doing a little bit too much of a scroll on a platform that's not as happy, I'll move to Pinterest and just start looking at things I actually want to see. Or I'll move to TikTok, because you can get lost in TikTok for a little while. Like, I haven't done it that many times. I've probably only done it about 3-4 times in my life. But it is cringy, but it's fun, you know, like it's fun. I haven't ever made one. That maybe won't change. It might change. We'll see. Maybe next year one of my artists will take off incredibly, and I'll always be forced to do a cringy TikTok for one of their songs. Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe.
If it makes a lot of money, then I'm probably going to be happy enough to just do one, because I'm just so happy that, like, okay, finally, like, we're absolutely, like, making a decent amount of money off of streams, and we can, you know, justify me jumping on a TikTok now. But, yeah.
It's just crazy how with TikTok it's just blowing up, hasn't it? I mean, that's like the new thing now, that TikTok is the thing to do now for everything that you do in life. It's mad.
Yeah. It's I mean, Gen Z love it. They absolutely love it.
They do.
They really. But it's just we have short attention spans, and TikToks are short. They have to be fun quickly. You know, they're often quite musical, and you can get information across well if you do them well. So I think they're a little bit of a, you know, a Vine. It's like taken from Vine, because Vine used to be great.
Vine.
Like,
I loved Vine.
But I think they really struggled with like finding a way of monetizing Vine, because how do you advertise on Vine? Whereas if they'd have done it now that we have all these influencers and they literally can just use TikTok and Instagram to influence, obviously TikTok's a place where hits are made. Look at how Jason Derulo's using TikTok, and the Don't Rush challenge, that was huge this year.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that have taken off, and TikTok has helped. So it's really interesting, and obviously it counts towards streaming as well now. Like, and so does Triller. They count towards streaming. So it's a great place for artists. You know, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective. Like I say, I don't think I've got a TikTok. I've got a Triller. I've got about 2 followers, and I think they're both my artists. And I just think they just follow me back because they almost like are obligated to, but they didn't even have to follow me back. I wouldn't have been offended. I'm like, I'm not trying to ruin their brand or anything. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to ruin the street cred. Like, but if, you know, if they follow me back, they follow me back. But, you know, they didn't need to. I'm not going to post on that. Let's put it that way.
Oh, but you know what? I was obsessed with Pinterest, though. I can't lie. A few years back, or quite a few years back, when it first kind of came out, I was literally obsessed with Pinterest, because what it used to show you was crazy. That's amazing. I mean, I import it's like kind of like Transformers USB stick from there. That is amazing. But it's like a little thing, like the real creative ideas, what I loved. But talk about going back to that. Yeah. Do you still use it now? Actually,
every day.
Really?
I love Pinterest. I'm on it all the time. I have so many boards. I actually am at a point now where I need to condense my boards down a little bit, and my photos on my phone as well, because I just my Pinterest saved album itself is probably about 3,000 pictures alone.
Wow.
So I'm just on Pinterest all the time.
I can imagine. And go with Cactus City Studios as well, was that the first thing you created, or was that kind of in conjunction with JVO as well? And are they intertwined as well, those two?
JVO came about this year, actually. But I met my business partner I didn't meet him through Cactus City, but he did start using it with one of our now artists. So Vigo, one of my artists, doing amazing. He's just hit over 60,000 streams on his latest single on Spotify. He's doing really well. To say he's, you know, an indie, he's doing so well. Started to hit the playlist and things, so we're really happy with what's going on there. He used to come through, and that's where we obviously got talking about strategy and things like that. And then he headed off to New York last year to meet the guys over at EQ, Rock Nation, etc. And he penned a deal with a couple of other guys. And it started off as just 3 guys, this company. And he'd always been talking to me about getting me on board. But he held back, and I'm almost glad that he did. And one of the other guys left to pursue other things. And then they brought me on as like the third person. And then we kind of changed our structure, so it's mostly me and my business partner Oracle. Like it's mostly us 2 now running things. We've sort of changed our structure. We have an advisory board which is filled with lawyers and managers that are very well established and amazing, and we're very, very lucky to have them giving us advice. So we've sort of structured it like that now, so it's mostly me and Oracle running things. And then it started off as a group of men, and now it's like a guy and a girl running things, as the face of it all. So it did really come about because of Cactus City, I suppose. They didn't start together, but they have developed because of Cactus City. So the seed did get planted there. And Cactus City also was probably not going to be what it was going to be if I didn't start JVO, really. Because you know what, I was actually almost ready to not leave the music industry, but just to take a break. So this year I was actually planning, before joining JVO, before doing any of this, my plans for this year were to travel. I wanted to go to Ibiza for the whole summer, and I wanted to go to Los Angeles, and I didn't want to be in the UK this year. And then COVID happened, and thankfully I said yes to JVO. Because if I'd not said yes, like, I'd been crawling back with my tail between my legs. But yeah, because I nearly said, not that I nearly said no, but I thought about it a lot. I thought, I want to travel. Is that going to be a problem? The guy said, no, it's not going to be a problem. You can travel if you want to. We're still in the building stage. As I say, it's been building for a lot longer than it's been visible for. So they were okay with me traveling, because you can, we've been doing all this from home now, so I could have done it from anywhere in the world anyway. Could have been traveling. Well, obviously that got cut off. Ibiza got written off, unfortunately, and so did Los Angeles, because you can't go to the States at the minute unless you've been somewhere else for 14 days. That's not on their list, because we're currently on their no-go list as the UK. So yeah, they're all intertwined. I think everything that we're doing at the minute, is mostly intertwined. We do have a couple of other ventures that are nothing to do with anything, but the music stuff is all intertwined in a way. I mean, they're very separate. Like, I'm not building the studio for my artists. Incidentally, they might use the space at some point, but that's not what it's for. Like, it really is for women in the industry to just have somewhere where they feel they can thrive or return to the industry. That's one of the big things for me. Women leave the industry because of the pressures and situations they face, but they might not want to leave. They just might feel that they have to leave for the sake of. I like to give people a space that they could come back to it if they want to, and actually feel, I can return to music. It feels like it's gotten better. The environment for people working behind the scenes has gotten better. So let's make a return to it. And lots of organizations are doing some great things in the industry to make things better, but it's just not getting there quick enough. And it's not anyone's fault, but the fact that we were just started from such a far back place. We can't make it happen overnight. These things take time. They take generational change.
They do.
So,
I saw the reasonings behind the name for Cactus City Studios, which I thought was brilliant. But would you like to actually explain how you came up with the name for Cactus City Studios?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We didn't actually start off as the reason it became.
Yeah.
We called it Cactus City because we stuck a bunch of cactuses in the room. I loved cactuses. I was in the Canary Islands all the time. There's just cactuses everywhere. And the reason I called it Cactus City was because essentially I said the only pricks in this room are going to be on the cactus, so you're not
Yeah.
going to have to deal with pricks, they're on the cactus,
Yeah.
but they're the only pricks that you're going to have to deal with. So that was what it actually started off as, but it
Okay.
became something else. It became something more meaningful, is that in that, you know, as a cactus, they survive the harshest terrains. You know, they survive in environments where other plants can't survive. I cannot keep a plant alive, but I can keep a cactus alive. You know, they are really, really, really powering through the worst things in the world. So it's, you know, it represents something that it looks hard on the outside, but what it's doing is just protecting what it needs to survive, which is the water that it keeps in there and really just holds on to it to be able to survive in the desert for so long. And it's that's what it became, you know, came to represent, something that was able to survive in an environment that is harsh and, you know, harder on other plants. So that's what it started off as, something else, but then it just developed and became what it is now. So
That's
that's how I came up
amazing.
with it.
Brilliant. But you know what? I have so much respect for what you're doing, because I think it's so sad where females feel that they have to maybe leave their industry because of what's going on around them. And
Mm.
what you're doing to try and, well, you're making a safe space for them to be able to be themselves, create this magic and music and so much more, I think is absolutely amazing. So massive shout out to you and the team for doing such an amazing thing. And thank you as well.
Thank you so much for, well, asking me to speak to you. Like, I really do appreciate you reaching out. Really,
My
really
pleasure.
do.
No, thank you. I think it's so sad when such talented people feel like they need to be pushed aside or not looked at. And what
Mm.
you're doing is an amazing thing. So my hats go off to you, and I wish you all the more success with it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
A pleasure. But before we go, how can people actually find you actually online and help out as well?
So we've got a website now.
Hmm.
It's cactuscity.org, and they can find us at Cactus City UK on Instagram and Twitter. I think maybe even Facebook. Actually, we've got a Facebook now.
Amazing, amazing.
So, yeah, so we've got a website, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, and I mean, I think that's probably where we'll stay for now. We might do a YouTube channel at some point,
Hmm.
once we start having like live events in the studio and streaming live events of artists and stuff. But that's where we are for now, and you can always email us as well if you want to get in touch. So our email address is hello@cactuscity.org. So if you want to get in touch, you can drop us a line.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And that's
No
the
worries.
end of the episode. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.